what you see is that each building has a different style of facade. This one has a bell, and there's one with the neck. And on the other side, you can see a stair one. They're all represented. So each building in the canal area has a different style of facade, which is kind of neat way to show it. And you see how blue the water is in Pella? The factory at the bottom of the canal blue doesn't have.
Oh, that is pretty.
Well, this red rock, it must be.
A real windmill, the Vermeer Windmill, a Dutch windmill in a Dutch town called Pella, Iowa.
Okay. One of the things you know, the blades have to face the wind, right? Yeah. So that whole top turns. It's 23 tons.
We watched it turn as we were walking up today.
Oh, is that right? Well, when you see a windmill, you're really looking
Real
at
tips
a
down below.
sailboat. Because when they started building windmills in the 1200s, they had been using sailboats for hundreds of years. So the only technology of capturing the wind was from sailboats. So when they had to have a windmill, they used sails like a sailboat. And they used a ship's wheel. And this ship's wheel with the anchor, you turn this, and as he pulls that out, hooks it back there, and he starts turning this, and that'll turn the whole 23 tons, and one person can do it. Wow. So sometimes they'll have to do it 2 or 3 times a day as the wind shifts.
Okay.
And what's really not fun is when the wind is from here, because you have to go in between the blades. I'm pulling your leg, Bubba.
Okay.
But we have to stop it.
Fast.
We have to stop it and get through, and then start it up again.
Okay, Mark.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but so this basically turns the windmill so it's facing the wind.
Yeah.
That's what it does. It's
That
like,
cap up there turns.
I see now better. Yeah.
Yeah, the cap.
I see.
The blue cap. Okay. Now let's go just take a look at it. We can't go right with it, but there's enough wind today. He's running without sails. You notice that? In fact, you see at the bottom there's a board taken out.
Look how
He's
close
even
this
got
is.
that out because there's so much wind.
It's right there in front of our face.
If he were to want to put the sails on, what he does is stops the windmill. That big chain there and that red, white, and blue, that's the brake. Okay? He stops the windmill and he takes the sail, puts it out, and then he has to climb up and hook it on the inside. He has to climb all the way up and hook it on that side. So we're looking for volunteers because we lose so many.
I know that's something the wife would have to do, right?
You wouldn't do that, huh? Okay, it's too cold out here. Let's go in.
I was thinking climbing grain bins. It's not
We
any
have
taller.
wind towers all over our country.
What kind of bend? Oh, my Mexico.
Yes, probably.
Netherlands. Oh, wow, that looks in. Oh, I've seen this artist, Mondrian, Pete Mondrian.
Now, if he has the sails on and he's got it facing the wind and all that, we're ready to grind. Except we have one problem. The wheat is down on the ground, right? So the way we get this up is this would be down on the ground. And as the windmill turns, if you look over, see everything in here is authentic. This is an authentic 1850s TV. If he wanted to pull that up the rest of the way, he would open a trap door and he'd lower this onto there and would start turning. And that's what pulls the grain up. Well, you notice that it started over here and then it moved that far already. And so when this was built, they had to offset the trap doors 5 inches on each floor, or it would have been banging against the side. Okay, now we're ready to grind. We got the wheat up here. We store the wheat in the grain bin. We put as much in the hopper.
Look at this. It's right over our heads.
Come over this way. This is what the stones look like.
gear.
This is the bottom stone, and it does not turn. It's fixed. We've flipped this one up, and I'll show you how we do that in a few minutes. This is the top one that opened up. So the stone is there, and the top one turns. So the miller will stand here, and if you look up in that mirror, he says, okay, we're ready to grind, right? Open that up. And he opens that up, and the grain will flow out nice and easy, won't it? You know better than that. If you're unloading a wagon or anything, you have to shake it and various things. Well, we have the same problem. You open that up, and we have to have that running smoothly. So what you do is there's a shaker shoe on that quant. As that turns, and you'll see what happens. See the trough coming out up there? See it moving? Okay, this is what happens. That's how we shake that so it comes out nice and smoothly. High technology. Okay, so the miller stands here, and the miller has to keep his nose to the grindstone. That's where the expression comes from, of course. Keep your nose to the grindstone. So, because the wind changes and it might change the coarseness. So he runs this by separating the space between the two stones. And that's a very, very minute adjustment. You can imagine to go from coarse to fine is just very small. So the stone weighs 3,500 pounds, but you can tell I work out a lot. Okay, I'll push that down, and you notice wherever I put it, it stops right there. I don't have to pull a peg or anything, just stop right there. This is a 100-to-1 ratio. So if I move this an inch, I move the stone 100ths of an inch. That's a fine adjustment, isn't it? But it has to be. So I can push that and stay right there. Okay, we start with the wheat that looks like that. You got to get the picture of it. Then we sift it. And after you sift it, these are the hulls and stuff like that. And what you have left is white flour. Well, white flour is not near as healthy as if you have whole wheat. Whole wheat, you wouldn't sift it. But you sift it, and then we run this back through. We just keep doing that. So that's how you end up with white whole wheat bread. And that's how you fool the kids. They don't want brown bread. But with white whole, well, this is white. See, it says white. I like, yeah.
So, okay, if you want white wheat, you have to sift it? That's what the...
If you want just white flour, you sift it, and this is, feed that to the hogs or something.
That's the
Right,
chaff?
Mr. Farmer?
Is that like the chaff? Is that the chaff right there, or what?
The what? Yeah, that's the husk, the hull, and the stuff, off of it. I like to say, I mentioned that when you see a windmill, you really see a boat, a ship. Look at the inside framing. It's just like a ship. Ship has big curves, and they curve up this way, and you can't make big beams curve that far. You can nowadays with laminates, but they couldn't then. And so you really have a double wall, just like a ship does, because they use the same technology. Okay, we're going to go back and see the stones. If you want a copy of everything about the windmill, it's right here.
Yeah, it was built in the Netherlands and reassembled here.
Okay.
Over 13 stories
I thought
tall.
maybe you brought in found
Give it to
Somebody
me.
wrote Dutch up here.
Okay, come back either way here.
It's all national heritage stuff. They don't allow that.
You can come either way.
Vermeer Mill, stone ground whole wheat flour from the 1850s, Pella, Iowa.
Girls first.
What's this say? I'll just use hers.
Okay, come on back here.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Okay, so you've got one, so you don't need one.
Thank you very much for doing that.
Oh, you're
Okay,
welcome.
here's the big stone. See how one finger I can move that. The wheat comes down that trough, it falls through this one onto the bottom one. And then we want this stone to turn very rapidly. We want it to go about 150 RPM, revolutions per minute. It goes at 7 times the speed of the blades. So we have to have a good wind. Today there might be enough, but it's close. It takes a good wind to be able to do it. Now why such high speed? Well, when the wheat falls down, what causes it to come out? Well, the only thing that causes it is centrifugal force. So as this is whirring around, it's driving the wheat out, and it comes out, and we'd have the doors in, and the flour comes on here, and we bring it around to the front, into that bag in the front. We use a lot of buckets and stuff. We can do 500 pounds in an hour. So it's very efficient, and we don't grind very often. So it's the centrifugal force that drives it out. And I never thought about that, but it's very logical.
What do you do with the flour?
Well, 2 things. Yarzma Bakery buys some of our flour, and they sell. They don't use it for their regular, but they use it for a special windmill bread.
Okay.
And then we sell it downstairs. You can buy a bag of it, 2 pounds of it. And if you do buy it, put it in a freezer, because we don't put any preservatives in it. But it's very good at tulip time. people would be up here to see it, and they'd come down, and we had bread for sale. And my wife was working there, and she sold more bread. She said about everybody wanted to try it. It's kind of neat, to say. And they also, we ground it for a brewery over in Knoxville, and they made a windmill beer, and I guarantee you that sold well. Well, most all the beers sold well. We don't have any, just have a bar in there. We're probably the world's largest outdoor festival without a beer tent. Okay, now I showed you that picture in the front, or you can see it here too. This is how we get this lifted up. You take this structure off up here, which is a major job, and you hook one of these on each side. And with that screw, you pull it up, then you can swing the whole thing out like that. And when you get it out here, then you can flip it up. And every so often we have to clean that, so you don't have fermented grain or something.
So you actually pulled the stone out of there?
Yes. We have this in the side and the other side. We lift it up, swing it over, and that's how this picture was taken, see?
And how much does it weigh?
3,500 pounds.
And you call this a millstone?
Yeah.
And it's
For each
3,500 pounds for each one.
3,500, yeah. Okay. Now, if you don't run it properly and you erode the cutting edges, the way you fix it is to dig out the valley like this, and we don't want to ever have to do that. Right? Got something else here.
I guess it does turn.
Okay. Outside, I told you about the windmill turning, the tap turning, so you can face the wind. That whole structure sits right on like this, and there's 36 wheels like this running in a track. And so as he turns, it just moves it along like that. Okay.
A 3,500 pound millstone.
This is interesting. This is one of the gear teeth out of that big gear going there, and it had a little chip in it. And in typical Dutch fashion, you say, how in the world do you take that apart? Well, it's a little tough. You pull a board out there, you slide it out, and you slide it back in. And if you look at the gate here, they do the same thing there on this railing. They try to make things convenient. Don't have to have a tool to do this. That's neat. Okay, any questions? Now what we do is walk down through the heart of the mill. Aren't you glad we rode up and walked down?
Is this oak? Is this
this
made of
what?
oak? Is this oak?
No, it's a. You remember what this is? What the wood on that is?
That is oak, that's
That is
English, or French oak.
French oak. Okay, sorry, I didn't know that.
Again, this is
Okay.
a 3,500 pound millstone.
Yes.
And a real windmill.
Doesn't look like it. I've been doing it since it opened.
Well, you should know that.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, thanks for coming.
Is this your Dutch shoe?
It is, I only have one though.
Come in and see the windmill working
The
through.
termites got
This
together.
is just our repair and maintenance. See the big freezer? That's where we keep our power.
Are you I couldn't figure out if this kitchen or not. Ouch.
When they first started, some of the guys walked up and rode down this. That's the greatest thing I ever heard. At my age. Somebody coming. If you could get that picture and get the words with it, it'd be fun for you to, the ones there on the bottom. Turn it sideways.
And I think I
Oh,
know
you
what
got
to
it.
do.
Okay, we're not very creative. We named this the windmill room. Our head miller built this in his because he wanted to be able to show clearly exactly how the windmill worked. So the blades would be out there, turning it and turning it here and turning the stones, and so it kind of neat. The 9 paintings are a very interesting story. They're very valuable paintings, and an architect in California had them. And he visited here, and he loved the place, and he said, I've always wondered what I was going to do with those. Would you be interested? So again, we to help him out, we took them off his hand. And we didn't dare to put the originals in because this is an authentic windmill with no heating, no cooling, and we didn't dare to put them. So we keep the originals in our archives, and these are prints, and they're very good prints. You couldn't tell the difference. But it says, remember I showed you the swamp downstairs, the swamp one, in the miniature village?
Right,
And there it is.
for the windmill.
Yeah, right. Okay, when windmills were first built, the whole windmill turned instead of the cap, like ours, the whole windmill pivoted. And take a look at that picture. And now try to imagine building that in an era before electricity. Can you imagine having to saw and drill and everything by hand? And even that heavy drive shaft up there, getting that up there, they had just unbelievable. Okay, the Dutch didn't invent windmills. They were around in Greece and Macedonia and places. But the Dutch had the greatest need for power. They had to be able to pump the water out from behind the dike so they could create the country. God made the world, but the Dutch made the Netherlands. So here's a picture showing that. And if you remember seeing pictures, you see lots of them in a row. Kinderdijk has 12, I think, or something. But there's another reason for so many, besides just it takes a long time to pump the water, is that the windmill was only strong enough, and the wind only strong enough to lift the water about 5 feet, and the dikes were 12 to 15 feet. So as you lowered the level of the ocean, you had to have a holding pond, then another windmill to take it to the second one, then a third one to take it over the top. That's why it took so many windmills. It's just fascinating. And think you built those, and once you did that, you had to keep some of them because there's always water seeps in, but then you'd have to, it took about 100 years from start to finish, the time you started building the dike till you could use the land. So fascinating. Okay, any questions about that?
So okay, the windmill pulled the water out of the low-lying areas.
Over the dike into the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Right. And they said this can only lift the Archimedes screw only. It was very efficient. They had one like this, they called it a whip mill. You just kind of